to the entertainer talking sports.
What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video as the New York Giants finally put the pads on. I think they're going to only have 12 practices or so with the pads on, so the New York Giants have to make sure they get the most out of each and every one of these, practices. Usually you'd have a lot more than this, whether it's off-season OTAs, mandatory minicamps, a more elongated preseason, obviously with preseason games as well. The Giants don't have any of that. So Joe Judge and the New York Giants have to make sure they get the most out of each and every one of these padded practices. Of course, they've had 2 practices before this, but this was the first time that you put the pads on. And there's only so much that you could judge, no pun intended, when, you're in shorts and you don't got the pads on. You're not hitting, you're not tackling. This was the first day where you really get to see a full analysis of the New York Giants. And much like last year, I expect a lot of it to be positive. Most of the things I read, especially in the first day of practice, was very positive things. We'll get into some of the standouts. Of course, Daniel Jones is on the list. Expect Daniel Jones to be on a lot of these, just like Eli Manning was last year. And there's only so much I'm going to read into it. But I'll be interested to see when they really start to dive into how Daniel Jones is grasping the playbook. I didn't read much about who was getting first-team reps, things like that. I tried my best to find as much as I possibly could. I went on Twitter with Art Stapleton. I also went on Giants.com, and I pulled up an article. So we'll jump into all the quotes throughout the video. And I want, let's just jump right into it, and then I'll give my full opinion on everything. First thing we're going to pull up is that of course being Daniel Jones. Like I said, expect him to be in a lot of these when it comes to positivity. The second-year quarterback was nearly flawless during one-on-one drills, which pitted a receiver against a defensive back. Jones went through 2 rotations until his first incompletion. How many receivers did he throw to? I'm not 100% sure, but it goes on to state all of them, so I'm assuming it was like 12 times before he threw an incompletion. Jones went through 2 rotations until his first incompletion, throwing red zone touchdowns to Shepard, Tate, Coleman, Mack, Benjamin Victor, and Alec Bachman. So 12 completions before he threw his first incompletion. Later during team drills, Jones showed his decision-making and athleticism when he tucked the ball with nothing open and ran for a touchdown. And we all know Daniel Jones has a ton of athleticism. We saw it a lot last year. Sometimes you want him to hone in a little bit. We're not looking for Jones to get injured, but he's definitely got that. He's definitely got the wheels, and I expect Jones to have a strong, training camp. The guy definitely worked his tail off this year. The questions I have is his pocket awareness. I hope he's continuing to work on that, and his grasp of the new playbook under Jason Garrett. The next guy we're going to talk about is Darnay Holmes, and Darnay Holmes has been getting rave reviews, whether it was directly after the draft, whether it was at the start of training camp, whether it was in the Zoom meetings. Everything you've heard about him has been incredibly positive, and that continued today. The rookie is 3 for 3 in making these standout articles, and they've only had 3 practices, which is arguably the greatest accomplishment for the former 5-star recruit who once scored 5 touchdowns in 4 different ways with a California State high school championship game. Went on to lead UCLA in interceptions 3 times while earning his degree in less than 3 years. And we know all that, and we know he's a chess champion. In all seriousness, defensive backs coach Jerome Henderson said last week that Holmes has been doing some positive things, but it was quick to point out he has a long, long way to go, which you expect him to say. He's a rookie. He definitely has a long way to go. He wanted to see how Holmes would handle contact with pads on because until today they practiced in shorts. Well, Holmes passed Monday's test and made a sliding interception in the end zone late in the team period. Of course, he broke up a couple of passes yesterday as well. Then Judge went on to say this. I think he's doing a good job day by day, Judge said. We've seen a consistent improvement from him like every rookie. They have to get used to the pace and the adjustments within the level of football. But I don't think Darnay is really backing down from any challenge. I've been pleased to see how he comes out every day and competes. I've been pleased to see his energy and enthusiasm on the field. And that competitive nature definitely shows up. And the more I hear about Darnay Holmes, the more I think he's probably the favorite to be the starting nickel corner, day one. And he's a guy I'm really excited about. We'll see where they line him up. They didn't really get into specifics in this. Maybe, they didn't really have many 11-on-11s, I'm sure. We'll see where they line him up, whether it's in the slot, whether it's on the outside. I'm sure they're going to cross-train. They're going to give me an opportunity to win either job. He projects to be more of a slot corner, however. Next thing we're going to pull up is this. I thought this was interesting. I just wanted to talk about it briefly. He took all the names off the jerseys and off the nameplate. Traditionally, when you're in training camp, I remember this when I used to collect cards, you would see the name, where it would say like Riddle on the helmet of the rookies and things like that. And he took that off. He took the name off on the back, and he explained why. Judge explained his reasoning for removing the names after a reporter's follow-up question. To be honest with you, he said, I've been places where we've gone an entire offseason without numbers. To me, it's important to know who the players are on the field across from you by their body type and how they move, more so than having to see a nameplate to identify your teammate. We should know each other as coaches and players by how we move and the way we carry ourselves. So he's just saying basically he's doing that for familiarity. He wants these guys to get closer. He wants these guys to know every nook and cranny with every player on the roster. So I thought that was interesting. There's not much to that, but it shows you that Joe Judge is very detail-oriented. And stick around, you're going to see a lot more of that. The next thing that Joe Judge went on to say, these were the three noticeable changes. What I just talked about with the jerseys, the penalty laps, and 2 11-on-11 groups working simultaneously, which is vital when padded workouts have an NFL-mandated limit of 90 minutes. Not to mention, you don't have that many, so you have to be able to get as much work in as you possibly can. We're moving at a rapid pace, Shepard said. Some of the drills are two-spotted so that we can get more reps. It just moves a lot quicker. And I would venture to guess that this is not something that Pat Shermer did. It seems like Joe Judge is very well prepared. The way to expand that time is to expand the drills you're running and make sure everyone is working at all times, Judge said. Our coaches have done a good job of organizing the morning and talking to the players about where they're going throughout the practices. We have a lot of moving parts, but our players understand that there's a purpose in everything we're doing. We're trying to make sure everybody maximizes the time on the field, maximizes our reps, and gives us a chance to evaluate everybody and for them to improve on their individual techniques. So, I mean, this is great. I mean, it just goes to show you that Judge is trying to do every little thing he can to get as much productivity out of the players as he can in these limited practices. And I definitely think that's going to translate on the football field on game day. I think he's going to have a team that fights for every last inch on the field. I don't think he's going to be a coach who doesn't know what's going on in the game, how to manage his timeouts. I think he's going to be very detail-oriented. Next thing, actually, I already read that quote, wanted to skip that. This was interesting from Art Stapleton, talking about Saquon Barkley. Joe Judge says Saquon Barkley comes out every day with a purpose. What impresses Judge the most after getting to see Barkley up close, how eager he is to be coached. And that's why Saquon Barkley's a captain. A lot of times when you have a player as great as Saquon Barkley, as naturally gifted as he may be, they take it for granted. They don't put in the work. They don't think they need to do it. Barkley wants to be the greatest of all time, and Joe Judge is speaking about that there, and you got to love to hear it. And then the next thing I wanted to pull up for you guys was this. I thought this was interesting as well. Traditionally, during training camp, your practices are in the morning. But being that there's a limited practice schedule, Joe Judge elected to have tomorrow's practice at night. And I like the idea, but let's get into it. Giants will practice tomorrow night. And Joe Judge says the reason is to give them more recovery time after 2 hard practices Sunday and Monday. And normally during a normal offseason, you may not do this, but the fact that he's trying to get as much as he possibly can, knowing that the practices are limited, it's not like you're wasting one. Have it at night so they're better prepared, they're more rested, and you're going to get the most out of those 90 minutes. So I thought that was a very wise decision by Joe Judge. And yeah, that's about it about the news and notes. And, as far as the quotes, there wasn't a whole lot today. Like I said, it wasn't like 11-on-11 drills. It was 1-on-1 in the red zone. But it seems like it's a well-oiled machine. I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more as the practices start to get, harder hitting and things like that. But so far, so good. Positive things as Joe Judge takes the field for the first day as the New York Giants head coach with the players in pads. We'll see how it all plays out. They'll have a bunch more of these practices, and then we'll get down to the final 53 before we get ready to play the Steelers in like 3 weeks. I mean, football season's coming up before you know it. Hopefully the New York Giants can get as much as they possibly can out of each and every one of these sessions. But I'm encouraged by Judge. I'm encouraged by this staff. And I think that this team is young and hungry, and they want to learn as much as they possibly can. And hopefully we surprise some people early on. As always, guys, if you liked what you watched, please subscribe. Drop a comment. Maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.